On a rainy Saturday night in 2025, Michael Jordan walked into a small gym for a charity basketball game. The crowd went wild seeing the greatest player ever, but one coach did something nobody expected. She laughed at him. Not a polite chuckle. A deep, knowing laugh like she'd been waiting 30 years to see him again. Jordan stopped playing and stared at her in confusion. The whole arena went silent. Who was this mystery coach who dared laugh at Michael Jordan? And what shocking secret was Thai about to turn his world upside down? The rain drummed against the windows of the Riverside Community Center like tiny fists knocking for attention. Inside, the old gym buzzed with excitement that made the air feel electric. Hundreds of families had packed the bleachers on this Saturday evening, their voices mixing together in a happy roar that bounced off the brick walls. 8-year-old Tommy Martinez pressed his face against the metal barrier, his breath fogging up the cold surface. His mom had brought him early so they could get seats close to the court. Tommy wore his favorite Chicago Bulls jersey, the red one with number 23 on the back. He'd been saving his allowance for 3 months to buy it. Is he really coming? Mom? Tommy asked for the 10th time, bouncing on his toes. His mother smiled and ruffled his black hair. Yes, mijo. Michael Jordan will be here any minute. All around them, kids were asking their parents the same question. Would the greatest basketball player who ever lived really show up to play in their small town? It seemed too good to be true. The Tao charity game had been planned for weeks. Retired NBA stars would play against local high school coaches to raise money for new books at 3 elementary schools. The schools needed help badly. Some kids didn't even have books to take home for homework. A door at the far end of the gym opened, and a hush fell over the crowd like someone had turned down the volume on a radio. Then the whispers started. Is that him? Oh my God, it's really him! Michael Jordan. The man walking through the door looked exactly like he did on TV, just older. His head was still shaved, smooth and shiny. His shoulders were still broad and strong. When he smiled, his white teeth seemed to light up the whole gym. Michael Jordan waved to the crowd, and the noise exploded like thunder. Kids screamed, parents cheered. Someone in the back started chanting, MJ, 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 and soon, everyone joined in. Tommy felt tears in his eyes, but he didn't care. His hero was right there, maybe 20 feet away. The man who could fly through the air and make impossible shots look easy. The man who never gave up, even when his team was losing. Jordan began warming up, dribbling a basketball between his legs like it was tied to his hand with invisible string. Even at 53 years old, he moved like water flowing downhill, smooth and natural and beautiful to watch. The other NBA legends warmed up too. There was Magic Johnson, tall and smiling, signing autographs while he stretched. Carlos Smooth. Williams practiced his famous hook shot. Danny "The Wall" Rodriguez worked on his defense moves. But everyone's eyes stayed on Jordan. He was the reason they were all here. On the other side of the court, the local coaches were warming up too. They looked nervous and excited at the same time. Most of them taught at nearby high schools. They were good coaches, but they weren't superstars. They were just regular people who loved basketball and wanted to help raise money for kids who needed books. One of the coaches caught Tommy's attention. She was a woman, maybe 40 years old, with long black hair pulled back in a ponytail. Her warm-up suit was old and faded, but she moved, like she knew what she was doing. While the other coaches seemed starstruck by the famous players, she looked calm and focused. Her name tag said, Coach E. Rivera, Lincoln High School. Tommy watched Coach Rivera shoot free throws. She didn't miss a single one. Her form was perfect. Smooth and consistent, like she'd done it 1,000,000 times before. The game was supposed to start in 10 minutes. Jordan finished his warm-up and walked toward the center of the court. The crowd got louder, if that was even possible. Camera phones flashed like tiny lightning bolts. That's when it happened. Coach Rivera looked up from her free throw practice and saw Jordan walking toward her side of the court. For a moment, her face went completely blank, like she was seeing a ghost. Then she started laughing. It wasn't a small giggle or a polite chuckle. It was a deep, knowing laugh that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her chest. She laughed like someone had just told her the best joke in the world, or like she'd just figured out the answer to a puzzle that had been bothering her for years. The strange thing was, nothing funny had happened. Jordan was just walking normally, dribbling his basketball and nodding to fans. There was no reason for anyone to laugh. But Coach Rivera kept laughing, and she was looking right at him. Not at his famous teammates, or the cheering crowd, or the TV cameras. Just at him. Jordan noticed. How could he not? In a gym full of screaming fans and flashing cameras, one person was laughing at him like she knew something nobody else did. He stopped walking. The basketball stopped bouncing and rolled away across the shiny wooden floor. For the first time all evening, Michael Jordan looked confused. The gym began to quiet down as people noticed something was happening. The energy changed from excitement to curiosity. Why had the great Michael Jordan stopped in the middle of the court? Why was he staring at that coach? Jordan took a few steps toward Coach Rivera. His famous confidence seemed to flicker for just a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried across the quiet gym like he was talking through a microphone. What's so funny? Coach Rivera's laughter faded to a smile, but her eyes stayed bright with whatever private joke she was enjoying. She shook her head slowly, like she was deciding whether to share a secret. "Nothing, Mr. Jordan," she said, and her voice was different now. Softer, gentler, like she was talking to an old friend instead of a basketball legend. "Nothing at all." But the way she said his name made it sound special. Not like she was talking to a famous stranger, but like she was talking to someone she'd known for a long time. Jordan stared at her for another few seconds. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, maybe, or a memory trying to surface. For just a moment, he looked less like a basketball superstar and more like a regular person trying to remember where he'd heard a song before. Then the referee blew his whistle, and the spell was broken. The crowd cheered again. Players, tikakyom. Their positions. The game was about to begin. But as Jordan walked to center court for the opening tip-off, he kept glancing back at Coach Rivera. And she kept watching him with that same mysterious smile, like she was enjoying a wonderful secret that only she understood. Tommy pressed closer to the barrier, sensing that something important had just happened, even if he didn't understand what it was. The game was starting, but somehow he knew the real story was just beginning. In the stands, hundreds of people were about to witness something special. They thought they were just watching a charity basketball game. They had no idea they were about to see the moment when the past and present collided in the most unexpected way. The referee tossed the ball high into the air, and the game began. But the real game, the one that mattered most, had started the moment Coach Rivera laughed at Michael Jordan like she'd been waiting 30 years to see him again. Jordan jumped for the opening tip-off, his body moving like it remembered being 25 years old. Even at 53, he could still fly higher than players half his age. The crowd roared as he tapped the ball to Magic Johnson, who caught it with his famous smile. This was supposed to be fun, a simple charity game where the NBA legends would put on a good show, score some easy baskets, and let the local coaches play their hearts out before losing by 30 points. Everyone would go home happy, and the schools would get their money for new books. But something felt different from the very first play. Magic dribbled down court, looking for Jordan to make an easy pass. Jordan ran to his favorite spot on the right side, the same place where he'd made thousands of game-winning shots. Magic threw him the ball, and Jordan caught it exactly where he expected to. except Coach Rivera was already there waiting for him. Not running to catch up, not scrambling to defend. She was standing in the exact spot where Jordan wanted to go, like she'd known he was coming before he did. Jordan stopped, surprised. In 30 years of professional basketball, very few people had ever predicted his moves that well. He looked at Coach Rivera, and she looked back at him with those same bright eyes that seemed to know secrets. "Good defense, Coach," Jordan said, dribbling the ball slowly. "Thank you," she replied. "You always did like that spot on the floor." "Always." "Did?" Jordan's eyebrows went up. When had she seen him play before? And why did her voice sound so familiar? Before he could think about it more, Coach Rivera stole the ball right out of his hands. It happened so fast that Jordan barely saw it coming. She dribbled down court like she was 20 years younger, her ponytail flying behind her. The crowd gasped. Someone had just stolen the ball from Michael Jordan. Rivera passed to one of her players, a tall kid from Lincoln High School who looked nervous but determined. The kid made a perfect layup, and the local team scored first. Tommy pressed against the barrier, his mouth hanging open. This wasn't how charity games were supposed to go. The famous players were supposed to win easily while making everyone laugh and cheer. But Coach Rivera's team was playing like they actually wanted to win. Jordan brought the ball back up court, more focused now. He tried a crossover dribble that had fooled defenders for decades. But somehow Coach Rivera was ready for that too. She didn't fall for the fake. She stayed right with him, her feet moving in perfect rhythm with his. "How did you know I was going left?" Jordan asked as they ran back down court. Coach Rivera just smiled that mysterious smile. Lucky guess. But it wasn't luck, and they both knew it. The game continued, and something amazing started to happen. The local coaches weren't just playing hard, they were playing smart. Coach Rivera seemed to know exactly what Jordan and his teammates were going to do before they did it. When Magic tried his famous no-look pass, Rivera's point guard was already in position to steal it. When Carlos "Smooth" Williams went for his hook shot, Rivera had coached her center to defend it perfectly. When Danny "The Wall" Rodriguez tried to intimidate players with his tough defense, Rivera's kids just smiled and kept playing. During the first time out, Jordan's teammates gathered around him. "Mike, what's going on out there?" Magic asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. "That coach is reading us like we're playing from a book she wrote." Carlos "Smooth" Williams shook his head in amazement. "She's calling out our plays before we run them. How does she know our old stuff?" Jordan looked across the court at Coach Rivera, who was calmly talking to her team. There was something about the way she moved her hands when she talked, something that made his chest feel tight, like when you're trying to remember a song you used to love but can't quite recall the words. "I don't know," Jordan said quietly, "but I'm going to find out." The second quarter was even more surprising. Rivera's team took the lead 23-18. The crowd was going wild because this was turning into a real basketball game instead of just a fun show. But Jordan wasn't thinking about winning or losing anymore. He kept watching Coach Rivera, trying to figure out why everything about her seemed so familiar. The way she clapped her hands to encourage her players, the way she called out defensive positions, even the way she tied her shoes during timeouts. With 2 minutes left in the first half, Jordan found himself guarding Coach Rivera directly. She had the ball, and they were face to face for the first time all night. "I know you," Jordan said quietly, so only she could hear. Coach Rivera dribbled the ball slowly, her eyes never leaving his. "Do you?" "Yes, I just can't remember from where." For a moment, neither of them moved. The crowd faded away. The other players became invisible. It was just the two of them, standing in the middle of a basketball court with 30 years of mystery hanging in the air between them. Then Coach Rivera did something that made Jordan's heart skip a beat. She did a perfect crossover dribble, the exact same move she had taught him to defend against just minutes earlier. But it wasn't just any crossover. It was the specific crossover that Jordan had learned when he was 8 years old, practicing on a cracked court behind his house in Wilmington, North Carolina. A crossover that only one person had ever taught him. The memory hit him like lightning, but it was gone before he could catch it. Just a flash of summer days and worn-out sneakers and someone laughing as they played basketball until the streetlights came on. Coach Rivera scored easily while Jordan stood there, stunned. As they ran back down court, she looked at him one more time. Some things never change. Michael, you're still easy to read when you're thinking too hard. The buzzer sounded for halftime. Rivera's team led 45-42. The crowd was on their feet, cheering for the biggest upset in charity game history. But Jordan barely heard them. He was thinking about that crossover dribble and the way Coach Rivera had said his name. Like she'd said it 1,000 times before, when they were both young and the world was full of endless possibilities. As both teams walked to their locker rooms, Jordan caught Coach Rivera's eye one more time. She wasn't smiling now. She looked like she might cry. And for the first time in 30 years, Michael Jordan felt like that little boy from North Carolina who used to practice basketball moves until his hands were raw and his dreams were the only thing that mattered. Someone was calling his name from the past, and he almost remembered who it was. The second half flew by like a dream Jordan couldn't quite wake up from. His team fought back, hard, but Coach Rivera's players seemed to grow stronger with every minute. They weren't just lucky anymore. They were playing the best basketball of their lives. With 30 seconds left on the clock, the score was tied 87-87. The crowd was standing, screaming so loud that the old gym felt like it might shake apart. This was supposed to be a fun charity game, but it had turned into the most exciting basketball anyone had seen all year. Jordan had the ball. This was his moment, the time when legends proved why they were legends. He'd made shots like this 1,000 times before, with millions of people watching and championships on the line. But as he dribbled toward the basket, all he could think about was Coach Rivera. She was standing on the sideline, not yelling instructions like most coaches would. She was just watching him with those knowing eyes, like she already knew what was going to happen. Jordan drove to the basket, but Rivera's center was ready. The kid played perfect defense, forcing Jordan to pass to Magic instead. Magic took a quick shot that bounced off the rim. With 5 seconds left, Coach Rivera called timeout. Her team huddled around her, but Jordan could see her lips moving, giving calm instructions like this was just another practice. No panic, no fear, just basketball. The timeout ended. Rivera's point guard, a thin kid with braces, brought the ball up court. Jordan expected him to look nervous, but the kid was smiling like he was having the time of his life. With 2 seconds left, the kid passed to Coach Rivera herself. She caught the ball at the three-point line, and for a split second, time seemed to stop. Jordan ran toward her, trying to block the shot. But as Coach Rivera jumped, he saw something that made his heart skip again. She held the ball exactly the same way he did when he shot three-pointers. The same grip, the same wrist position, the same follow-through. Like someone had taught her to shoot exactly the way he did. The ball left her hands in a perfect arc, spinning softly through the air like it was floating on invisible wings. Jordan watched it sail over his fingertips and drop through the basket without even touching the rim. The buzzer sounded. Rivera's team won 89-87. The crowd exploded like fireworks. Kids rushed onto the court. Parents hugged each other. Tommy was jumping up and down so high he looked like he might fly into the ceiling. But Jordan stood in the middle of all that celebration, completely still. He was staring at Coach Rivera, who was being lifted up by her players. She should have been celebrating the biggest win of her coaching career. Instead, she was looking right back at him. And for the first time all evening, she wasn't smiling. Her eyes were bright with tears that she was trying not to let fall. The crowd began to calm down as both teams lined up to shake hands. This was tradition. Winners and losers always showed respect for each other after a good game. Jordan walked down the line, shaking hands with Rivera's players. They were all grinning and saying things like, "Great game, Mr. Jordan," and "Thank you for coming." Nice kids who had just played the game of their lives. Finally, he reached Coach Rivera at the end of the line. "Great game, Coach," he said, extending his hand. She took it, and for a moment, neither of them let go. Her hand felt small in his, but strong. Familiar somehow, though Jordan couldn't figure out why. "Thank you, Michael," she said quietly. "You played beautifully. You always did." There it was again. Always did. "Have we met before?" Jordan asked, still holding her hand. Coach Rivera looked around at all the people watching them. Kids were taking pictures with their phones. Parents were cheering. TV cameras were recording everything. She seemed to realize that this wasn't the right place for whatever conversation they needed to have. "Not here," she said, gently pulling her hand away. "Not now." She started to walk toward her celebrating team, but Jordan couldn't let her go. Not yet. He'd spent 30 years learning to trust his instincts, and every instinct he had was screaming that this woman was important. "Wait," he called after her. "I need to know. Why were you laughing when you first saw me? And how did you know all our plays?" Coach Rivera stopped walking. Her shoulders tensed like someone had asked her a question. She didn't want to answer. Slowly, she turned around. For a moment, her face looked vulnerable, like she was a little girl who had been caught, keeping a secret. But then she took a deep breath and became a coach again. "Some things are better left in the past, Michael," she said softly. But as she said his name, something in her voice made Jordan's chest tighten. It was the same feeling he got when he heard a song from his childhood, or smelled his grandmother's cooking, or saw an old picture that brought back memories he thought he'd forgotten. "Please," Jordan said, and he was surprised by how desperate he sounded. "I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like I know you, like I've known you for a long time." Coach Rivera's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she didn't try to hide them. "You do know me, Michael, but you were just a little boy then. We both were." Before Jordan could ask what she meant, Coach Rivera's players surrounded her. They were laughing and talking all at once, asking her to pose for pictures and sign autographs. The moment was broken. Jordan watched as she was swept away by the celebration. But just before she disappeared into the crowd, she looked back at him one more time. "Some dreams come true exactly the way they're supposed to," she called out over the noise. "Even when it takes 30 years. Then she was gone, swallowed up by happy players and proud parents and flashing cameras. Jordan stood there for a long time, people swirling around him like he was a rock in a river. Kids asked for autographs, and he signed them without really seeing what he was writing. Adults shook his hand and congratulated him on a great game, and he thanked them without really hearing what they said. All he could think about was Coach Rivera's voice saying his name like she'd said it 1,000 times before. And that crossover, dribble, and the way she shot three-pointers exactly like he did. Somewhere in the back of his mind, a little boy was trying to remember a summer day when the sun was warm and the basketball felt light in his hands, and someone was teaching him that dreams could come true if you practiced hard enough and believed in yourself. Someone who laughed when he made good shots and encouraged him when he missed. Someone who made basketball feel like magic instead of just a game. Someone whose name started with an E. But every time he almost remembered, the memory slipped away like water through his fingers. Jordan. looked around the emptying gym one more time, hoping to catch another glimpse of Coach Rivera. But she was already gone, taking all her secrets with her. For the first time in his life, Michael Jordan felt like he'd lost something more important than a basketball game. That night, Jordan lay in his hotel bed staring at the ceiling. The sea. Numbers on the digital clock glowed red in the darkness. 2:47 a.m. He'd been lying there for hours, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Coach Rivera's face and heard her voice saying his name like she'd known him forever. Kept thinking about that crossover dribble, the way she held the basketball, the way she said, "You always did like that spot on the floor." Most of all, he couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said at the end. "You do know me, Michael. But you were just a little boy then." When had he been just a little boy? And who was the girl with the name that started with E? Jordan sat up in bed and grabbed his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he was looking for. Danny Rodriguez, his old friend who had organized the charity game. It was almost 3 a.m, but Jordan couldn't wait any longer. He pressed call. "Mike?" Danny's sleepy voice answered after 4 rings. "Is everything okay? Do you know what time it is?" "Danny, I need to ask you about Coach Rivera," Jordan said without saying hello. "The woman who beat us tonight." "Elena Rivera?" Danny yawned. "What about her?" "Elena." The name hit Jordan like a punch to the stomach. Elena. E for Elena. Why did that name make his heart race? "Tell me about her," Jordan said, getting out of bed and pacing around his hotel room. "Where did she come from? How long has she been coaching?" Danny sounded more awake now. "She's been at Lincoln High for about 5 years. Great coach, really cares about her kids. The players love her. Why are you asking?" "What about before Lincoln High? Where was she before that?" There was a pause. "I don't know, Mike. I never really asked. She showed up 5 years ago, looking for a coaching job, and Principal Martinez hired her right away. She had good references and knew basketball inside and out." "Why? What's this about?" Jordan stopped pacing. "I think I knew her when I was a kid, but I can't remember how." "You think you knew her?" "Mike, you meet thousands of people. Maybe she was just a fan who—" "No," Jordan interrupted. "This is different. She knew things about my game that I've never shown anyone. Old moves I learned when I was 8 years old. And the way she said my name—" Danny was quiet for a moment. "You want me to find out more about her?" "Yes," Jordan said immediately. "Everything you can. Where she grew up, where she went to school, what she did. Before coaching. Can you do that?" "I'll make some calls in the morning," Danny promised. "But Mike, maybe you should just ask her yourself." "I tried. She won't talk about it. She says some things are better left in the past." After hanging up, Jordan couldn't sit still. He got dressed and went for a drive through the empty streets of town. Without really planning to, he found himself driving toward Lincoln High School. The school was dark except for a few security lights in the parking lot. It was an old building, probably built in the 1960s, with brick walls and tall windows. Jordan parked his car and walked around the building until he found the gym. Through a window, he could see the basketball court inside. It was smaller than NBA courts, with wooden bleachers on both sides and old championship banners hanging from the ceiling. This was where Coach Rivera worked every day, teaching kids to love basketball the way someone had taught him. "Can I help?" "You?" Jordan turned around. An older man in a security guard uniform was walking toward him with a flashlight. "I'm sorry," Jordan said. "I was just looking around. I'm Michael Jordan." The security guard's eyes went wide. "No kidding? The Michael. Jordan? What are you doing here at 3 a.m? "I wanted to see where Coach Rivera works," Jordan said honestly. "She's an old friend." The guard smiled. Coach Rivera? She's something special, that one. Been here every Saturday morning for 5 years, running free basketball camps for kids who can't afford the expensive ones. Never asks for anything in return. She's here on Saturdays? Every Saturday at 8 a.m. Got about 20 kids who show up regular. Some of them don't have much at home, but Coach Rivera makes sure they get a good breakfast and learn some basketball. She uses her own money to buy them shoes and equipment. Jordan felt his chest tighten again. That sounded exactly like something Elena would do. But who was Elena? You said she's an old friend? The guard asked. I think so, Jordan said. But I'm not sure. It was a long time ago. The guard nodded like that made perfect sense. Sometimes the best friendships start when we're too young to remember all the details, but the heart remembers, you know? Jordan thanked the guard and drove back to his hotel. But he couldn't sleep. At 6 a.m., he called his assistant in Chicago. Marcus, I need you to do something for me, Jordan said when his assistant answered. I need you to find out everything you can about a woman named Elena Rivera. She coaches basketball at Lincoln High School here in town. Elena Rivera, Marcus repeated, and Jordan could hear him writing it down. What kind of information do you need? Everything. Where she was born, where she went to school, where she's lived. I think I knew her when I was a kid, but I can't remember the details. How far back do you want me to go? Jordan thought about it. If he'd known Elena as a child, it would have been in North Carolina, where he grew up. Start with North Carolina. In the 1970s, Jordan said. Look for any Elena who would be about 42 years old now. Check school records, newspaper articles, anything you can find. This might take a while, Marcus warned. Elena is a pretty common name. I have time, Jordan said. But Marcus, this is important to me. Really important. After hanging up, Jordan made another decision. If Coach Rivera was going to be at the school at 8 a.m., he was going to be there too. He needed answers, and he wasn't going to stop looking until he found them. At 7:45 a.m., Jordan was sitting in his car in the Lincoln High School parking lot, waiting. A few minutes later, an old blue Honda pulled into the parking lot. Even from a distance, Jordan could see Coach Rivera getting out of the car. She was carrying a big bag of basketballs and what looked like breakfast for 20 kids. Jordan got out of his car and walked toward her. When she saw him, she stopped walking and stared. Michael, what are you doing here? I came to help, Jordan said simply. And to remember. For a long moment, they looked at each other across the empty parking lot. The morning sun was just coming up, painting everything in soft golden light. Some memories are painful, Michael, Coach Rivera said quietly. Maybe, Jordan replied. But forgetting someone important is worse. Coach Rivera's eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away quickly. The kids will be here. Soon. They don't need to see their coach crying. Then let me help you carry those basketballs, Jordan said. And maybe you can tell me about a little girl named Elena who used to play basketball a long time ago. Coach Rivera smiled for the first time since he'd arrived. You really don't remember, do you? No, Jordan admitted. But I want to. More than I've ever wanted anything. Together, they walked toward the gym, carrying basketballs and breakfast, and 30 years of questions that were finally going to be answered. The kids started arriving 15 minutes later. They came on old bikes and on foot, some with parents dropping them off in dented cars. Most wore worn-out sneakers and basketball shorts that had seen better days. But every single one of them lit up when they saw Coach Rivera. Coach Elena! A small girl with braided hair called out as she ran across the parking lot. Did you bring pancakes again? Of course I did, Maria, Elena laughed, holding up a big paper bag. And orange juice and... The girl stopped running when she saw Jordan standing next to her coach. Her mouth fell open, so wide that Jordan thought she might swallow a bug. Is that really?" she whispered. "Kids, I want you to meet my friend Michael," Elena said calmly. "He's going to help us. Practice today?" Jordan watched in amazement as Elena introduced him to each child like he was just a regular person, not the most famous basketball player in the world. She made it seem normal that Michael Jordan was standing in their school parking lot at 8 in the morning ready to play basketball and eat pancakes. The kids were excited but not crazy. Elena had taught them to be respectful and focused. Within 10 minutes, they were all sitting in a circle on the gym floor, eating breakfast and listening to Elena talk about the day's practice plan. "Today we're going to work on free throws," Elena said, taking a bite of her own pancake. "Who can tell me the most important thing about shooting free throws?" A boy named Carlos raised his hand. "Keep your eye on the back of the rim?" "Good," Elena nodded. "What else?" "Follow through with your wrist," said another girl. "Bend your knees," added a third kid. Jordan watched Elena teach, and something started to feel familiar. The way she used her hands when she talked. The way she encouraged kids when they got answers right. The patient way she explained things over and over until everyone understood. "Mr. Michael," a boy named Tommy asked, "will you show us your free throw?" Jordan looked at Elena, who nodded. "Go ahead. But remember, kids, everyone has their own shooting style. Find what works for you." Jordan walked to the free throw line and picked up a basketball. It felt good in his hands, solid and familiar. But as he lined up his shot, he heard Elena's voice from behind him. "Remember to imagine the ball floating through the air like a feather." Jordan's hands froze on the basketball. Those words. He'd heard those exact words before. A long time ago. A little girl's voice saying the same thing on a hot summer day when he was learning to shoot free throws for the first time. He turned around slowly. Elena was watching him with tears in her eyes. "You remember," she said softly. Jordan's shot missed the basket completely. He didn't even notice. The memory was flooding back like water through a broken dam. A cracked basketball court behind a small house in North Carolina. A girl with pigtails teaching him to shoot. Long summer afternoons playing one-on-one until their parents called them home for dinner. "Elena Martinez," he whispered. She nodded. "Hello, Michael." The kids looked confused. They could tell something important was happening, but they didn't understand what. "Coach Elena," Maria asked, "why is Mr. Michael looking at you like that?" Elena wiped her eyes and smiled. "Because we used to be friends when we were your age. But we haven't seen each other in a very long time." "How long?" Carlos wanted to know. 30 years, Jordan said, still staring at Elena like she might disappear if he looked away. After practice, the kids went home with their parents, chattering excitedly about the day Michael Jordan helped them practice free throws. But Jordan and Elena stayed in the gym, sitting on the bleachers in the quiet afternoon light. "I looked for you," Jordan said. "When I made it to the NBA, I tried to find you. I wanted to tell you that I made it, that the dreams we talked about came true." Elena's smile was sad. "I know. I heard about you trying to find Elena Martinez in North Carolina, but by then, I wasn't Elena Martinez anymore." "What happened?" Elena was quiet for a long time. "Life happened, Michael. Dad lost his job when I was 9. We had to move to Texas to live with my aunt, then Arizona, then California. We never stayed anywhere long enough for me to make real friends or play on school teams." Jordan felt his heartbreaking for the little girl he'd known. "But you were so good at basketball. You could have played in college." "I was good," Elena agreed. "But being good isn't enough when your family is struggling just to pay rent. I got married young to help support my parents, had kids, worked whatever jobs I could find." She looked around the gym. I didn't give up on basketball completely, though. I always knew I'd come back to it someday. And 5 years ago, I finally did. Jordan wanted to ask more questions, but Elena stood up and walked to her small office next to the gym. She motioned for him to follow. Her office was tiny but neat. Basketball trophies lined the shelves and inspirational posters covered the walls. But what caught Jordan's attention was her desk. There was a photograph on it, turned face down. "Elena," Jordan said slowly, "what's in that picture?" She looked at the photo like it might bite her. "Some things are better left." "Please," Jordan interrupted. "I need to see it." Elena's hands shook as she reached for the photograph. For a moment, Jordan thought she might change her mind. But then she picked it up and held it against her chest. "This is all I have left of who we used to be," she said quietly. Without thinking, Jordan reached for the photo. Elena tried to pull it away, but it was too late. Jordan flipped the photograph over and felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. It was a picture of him and Elena when they were 8 years old. They were standing in front of the old basketball court behind his childhood home, both holding small trophies from a local kids' tournament. Elena had pigtails and was missing her front teeth. Jordan was grinning so wide his face looked like it might crack. But what made Jordan's eyes fill with tears was what someone had written on the bottom of the photo in a child's handwriting. "Best friends forever. Elena and Michael, summer 1979. We're going to be basketball stars." Jordan knew that photo. He had the exact same one at home in Chicago, buried in a box of childhood memories he rarely opened. His mother had taken it the day before Elena's family moved away. "You kept this," Jordan said, his voice barely a whisper. "I kept it through everything," Elena said. 3 different states, 2 marriages, raising kids alone. Every job, every struggle, every time I wanted to give up. This picture reminded me that dreams can come true, even if it takes 30 years. Jordan looked at the little girl in the photo, then at the woman sitting beside him. Elena Martinez had become Elena Rivera. The pigtails were gone, and life had put lines around her eyes. But she was still the same person who had believed in his dreams when they seemed impossible. "I never forgot you," Jordan said. "I just couldn't remember your name." Elena laughed through her tears. "You were always bad with names, but you never forgot a basketball move." They sat in the small office, holding the photograph between them like a bridge across 30 years of separation. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the gym in golden light that looked exactly like those summer evenings when they were kids, and the world was full of endless possibilities. "What happens now?" Elena asked. Jordan looked at his childhood friend, the first person who had ever believed he could fly. "Now," he said, "we figure out how to make up for lost time." For the next hour, Jordan and Elena sat in her small office and let 30 years of memories pour out like water from a broken dam. Every story Elena told brought back another piece of Jordan's childhood that he thought he'd forgotten. "Do you remember the time you tried to dunk on Mrs. Peterson's basketball hoop?" Elena laughed, wiping tears from her cheeks. "You were so determined to reach it that you stacked 3 milk crates on top of each other." Jordan started laughing too. "And you told me I was crazy, but you held the crates steady, anyway." "You fell right into her flower garden, petunias everywhere." She was so mad, Jordan remembered. "But then you told her I was practicing to be in the NBA someday and she actually believed you." Elena's smile grew sad. "I always believed you, Michael. Even when you were too short for the middle school team. Even when other kids said you'd never make it. I knew you had something special." Jordan looked at the photograph again. In it, 8-year-old Elena was looking at 8-year-old Michael, like he was already a star. Her face was full of pure faith and friendship. "You taught me the crossover dribble," Jordan said quietly. The one you used in the game the other night. And you taught me how to shoot free throws, like a feather floating through the air, you said. I've been teaching kids that same thing for 5 years. More memories came flooding back. Summer days that lasted forever. The sound of basketballs bouncing on hot pavement. Elena's laugh when Jordan told jokes that weren't funny. The way she never gave up, even when they played one-on-one until the score was 100-98. You were the only person who could keep up with me, Jordan said. Everyone else got tired or bored, but you always wanted to play one more game. I loved basketball, Elena said simply. But more than that, I loved playing with you. You made me feel like I could do anything. Jordan felt a lump growing in his throat. What happened to us, Elena? How did we lose touch completely? Elena's face darkened. You know what happened. Dad lost his job at the factory. Mom was pregnant again, and we couldn't afford the rent anymore. Aunt Rosa in Texas said we could stay with her, but only if we moved right away. Jordan remembered that terrible day like it was yesterday. Elena knocking on his door at 6 a.m, her eyes red from crying. The moving truck already loaded with their furniture, her promise that she would write every week. I did write, Elena said, reading his thoughts. For 2 years, I sent letters to your house in North Carolina, but you never wrote back. Jordan's heart sank. I never got any letters, Elena, I swear. I waited and waited, but nothing ever came. Elena frowned. That's impossible. I wrote every week for... She stopped talking, and her face went pale. Oh no. Michael, what was your address on Elm Street? 1247 Elm Street, Jordan said automatically. I was writing to 1274 Elm Street, Elena whispered. I mixed up the numbers. All those letters went to the wrong house. They stared at each other in shocked silence. 2 numbers. That's all it was. 2 numbers in. The wrong order, and 30 years of friendship had been lost. All this time, Jordan said slowly, you thought I didn't care enough to write back. And you thought I forgot about you completely. Jordan felt angry at the universe for such a stupid mistake. But then he looked at Elena's face and saw something that made his anger melt away. She was smiling through her tears. What's so funny? He asked. Don't you see? We both kept looking for each other. You tried to find me when you made it to the NBA. I followed every game you ever played. We never really forgot each other, Michael. We just couldn't find our way back. Elena was right. Even though they'd been separated, they'd carried each other in their hearts. Jordan in his basketball moves and competitive spirit. Elena in her teaching and belief in kids' dreams. Tell me about your family, Jordan said. Your kids. Elena's face lit up. Maria is 22 now. She's in college studying to be a teacher, just like her mom. Carlos is 19 and working to save money for school. They're good kids, Michael. They work hard and dream big. Just like their mother, Jordan said. I tried to teach them what you taught me, Elena said. That it doesn't matter where you start. What matters is how hard you're willing to work and how much you believe in yourself. Jordan felt his chest tighten with emotion. While he was winning championships and becoming famous, Elena was raising children and teaching them the same lessons they'd learned together as kids. I'm so proud of you, Jordan said. Not because you became a coach or raised great kids. I'm proud because you never stopped being the person I knew when we were 8 years old. Elena looked confused. What do you mean? You still believe in people's dreams. You still work harder than anyone else. You still make everyone around you feel like they can do anything. That's who you were when we were kids, and that's who you are now. Elena started crying again, but these were happy tears. You know what's funny? I used to watch you on TV and think the same thing. You were still that little boy who refused to give up, who practiced until his hands were bleeding, who told everyone he was going to fly someday. Jordan realized something that took his breath away. They had both grown up to become exactly the people they'd dreamed of being when they were children playing basketball behind his house. Not just in their careers, but in their hearts. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed in touch? Elena asked. Jordan thought about it. Maybe I wouldn't have worked as hard if I'd known you were always cheering for me. Maybe you would have played college basketball if you'd known I believed in you. Or maybe, Elena said softly, we both needed to find our own way so we could appreciate what we had when we found each other again. They talked until the sun went down, filling in 30 years of missing pieces. Elena told Jordan about her struggles and her victories. Jordan told Elena about the loneliness of fame and how he'd never found another friend who understood him the way she did. As they got ready to leave, Elena looked around her small office one more time. I can't believe you're really here, she said. Sometimes I thought I'd imagined our friendship, like maybe it was too good to be true. Jordan picked up the photograph and studied it again. Two kids with impossible dreams and unshakable faith in each other. It was real, he said. And it's real now. Elena smiled. So what happens tomorrow, Michael? You're going to go back to your life, and I'm going to go back to mine. Jordan looked at his childhood best friend, the person who had shaped who he became, without even knowing it. The woman who had been cheering for him from afar for 30 years, while building her own quiet, beautiful life. Tomorrow, he said, we start making new memories. But first, I have some phone calls to make. Elena looked curious, but Jordan just grinned. It was the same grin he'd had as an 8-year-old when he was planning something that was going to surprise everyone. What are you thinking? Elena asked, and her voice sounded exactly like it had when they were kids and Jordan was about to suggest some crazy basketball adventure. I'm thinking, Jordan said, that it's time for dreams to come true. Not just mine this time. Yours too. Elena looked at Jordan with curiosity and a little bit of fear. She'd learned to be careful about hoping for too much. Life had taught her that dreams were fragile things that could break easily. Michael, what are you planning? She asked. Just trust me, Jordan said with that old familiar grin. But first, I want to know everything. Tell me about those 30 years, Elena. All of it. The good parts and the hard parts. Elena looked out the window at the empty school parking lot. Where should she start? How do you explain 30 years of life in one conversation? After we moved to Texas, she began slowly. Things got worse before they got better. Dad couldn't find steady work. Mom was sick a lot after my baby brother was born. We lived in a tiny apartment with my aunt's family. 8 people in 2 bedrooms. Jordan listened quietly, his heart aching for his friend. I played basketball at my new school, but it wasn't the same. The coach didn't believe girls should play seriously. He said basketball was just for fun, not for dreaming big dreams. But you kept playing, Jordan said. It wasn't a question. He knew Elena would never give up completely. I practiced by myself every morning before school, shot free throws for hours, imagining you were there teaching me. Like a feather, I'd whisper to myself. Float like a feather. Elena's voice grew quieter. By high school, I was good enough to get college scouts looking at me. 3 different schools offered me scholarships. Small schools, but still. I could have played college basketball, Michael. What happened? Jordan asked, though he was afraid he already knew. Dad had a heart attack my senior year. The medical bills were huge. Mom couldn't work because she had to take care of him and my little brother. The family needed me to get a job, not go to college. Elena wiped her eyes. So I turned down the scholarships and married Tom Rivera. He was older, had a good job at a factory. It seemed like the right thing to do, help my family and start my own. Jordan felt his chest tighten. While he was getting ready for college and eventually the NBA, Elena was giving up her dreams to take care of everyone else. "Were you happy?" Jordan asked gently. Elena considered the question. "I was doing what I thought I should do. Tom was a good man, but he didn't understand why I still wanted to play basketball. He said it was time to grow up and be a wife." "But you had kids," Jordan said. "That must have brought you joy." Elena's face lit up for the first time since she'd started her story. "Maria and Carlos saved me. When I held them for the first time, I remembered what it felt like to have dreams. Not for myself anymore, but for them." She pulled out her phone and showed Jordan pictures of her children. Maria was beautiful, with Elena's dark eyes and bright smile. Carlos was tall and athletic, with kind eyes and his mother's determined expression. "I taught them to play basketball as soon as they could walk," Elena said proudly. "Not because I wanted them to be stars, but because I wanted them to know what it felt like to work towards something bigger than themselves." "Did they play in school?" Jordan asked. Maria played until she was 16, then decided she wanted to focus on her studies. She's going to be a teacher, just like her mom. Carlos plays on his college team now. He's not NBA material, but he loves the game. Jordan studied the photos. Both kids had Elena's smile and something else he recognized, the look of people who'd been taught to believe in themselves. "What happened with your marriage?" Jordan asked carefully. Elena's face grew sad again. "Tom lost his job when the kids were small. He started drinking, got angry a lot. One day he just left. Said he couldn't handle the pressure of being a father and husband." "How old were the kids?" "Maria was 8, Carlos was 6. The same age we were when we used to play basketball together." Jordan felt a surge of anger at a man he'd never met. How could anyone walk away from Elena and those beautiful children? "It was the hardest time of my life," Elena continued. "I was working 3 jobs just to pay rent, waitressing at night, cleaning offices in the morning, watching other people's kids in the afternoon. Some days I was so tired I could barely stand up." "How did you manage?" "Basketball," Elena said. "Simply. On Sundays when the kids were with my neighbor, I'd go to the public courts and shoot baskets by myself. It reminded me who I used to be. It reminded me that I was stronger than I knew." Jordan imagined Elena, exhausted and struggling, finding strength on a basketball court. It made him admire her even more than he already did. "I never stopped. Following your career," Elena said. "When you won your first championship, I cried watching it on the TV at the restaurant where I worked. When you retired the first time, I felt like I was losing my connection to those dreams we used to share." "You were always connected to those dreams," Jordan said firmly. "You were part of every shot I made, every game I won. You just didn't know it." Elena smiled through her tears. "The kids used to ask me why I cried when you played on TV. I told them you reminded me of an old friend who taught me that anything was possible if you worked hard enough." "What made you decide to go back to school?" Jordan asked. "Carlos graduated high school 5 years ago. Both kids were old enough to take care of themselves. I'd saved every penny I could for 10 years, and I finally had enough money to get my teaching degree." Elena's voice grew stronger as she talked about her return to education. "I was 37 years old, sitting in college classes with kids who were barely older than Maria. But I didn't care. I had something they didn't have. I knew exactly why I was there." "To teach," Jordan said. "To teach basketball. To help kids believe in themselves the way you helped me believe in myself when we were children." Jordan looked around Elena's small office, at the trophies her teams had won, at the inspirational posters on the walls, at the photo of 2 8-year-olds who'd promised to be basketball stars forever. "You did become a basketball star," Jordan said suddenly. Elena laughed. "Michael, I'm a high school coach in a small town. I never made it past junior varsity." No, Jordan said firmly. You became exactly the kind of star the world needs most. You take kids who don't believe in themselves and you teach them to dream. You take broken families and you show them what strength looks like. You take everything that tried to destroy your spirit and you use it to build other people up. Elena stared at him. I never thought of it that way. Those kids at your Saturday morning camp, they don't see a woman who gave up her dreams. They see someone who proves that dreams can survive anything. That's a different kind of championship, Elena. But it's just as important as anything I ever won. Elena was crying again, but these were tears of recognition. For the first time in 30 years, someone understood the value of the life she'd built from the pieces of her broken dreams. You know what I regret most? Elena asked. What? That you had to become famous all by yourself. That I wasn't there to celebrate with you. That I wasn't there to remind you that you were already special before the world knew your name. Jordan felt his throat tighten. And I regret that you had to be strong all by yourself. That I wasn't there to help you when things got hard. That I wasn't there to remind you that giving up your dreams to help other people makes you a hero, not a failure. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, two old friends who finally understood the full story of each other's lives. So what now? Elena asked. You said something about dreams coming true. Jordan stood up and pulled out his phone. Now, I make some calls. And tomorrow, Elena Rivera, your life is going to change in ways you can't imagine. Elena looked worried. Michael, I don't need charity. I've built a good life here. My kids are happy. My students respect me. This isn't charity, Jordan interrupted. This is friendship. This is what we should have been doing for each other all along if two stupid numbers hadn't gotten mixed up on an envelope. Elena watched as Jordan scrolled through his contacts. She could see the determination in his eyes, the same look he'd had as a child when he decided he was going to learn a new basketball move, no matter how long it took. Trust me, Jordan said, looking up from his phone. The same way you trusted me when we were 8 years old and I told you I was going to play in the NBA someday. Elena smiled. You know what? That little boy's promises turned out pretty well. I guess I can trust the grown-up version too. Jordan grinned and started dialing. Elena's story of struggle and sacrifice had broken his heart, but it had also given him a purpose he hadn't felt in years. It was time to prove that dreams could come true twice in one lifetime. The next morning, Jordan couldn't stop thinking about everything Elena had told him. He sat in his hotel room with a cup of coffee, staring at the old photograph she'd let him borrow. 2 8-year-old kids who thought they could conquer the world with nothing but basketballs and big dreams. Before he started making his phone calls, there was one more thing he needed to understand. Elena, Jordan said when she answered her phone, I have to ask you something that's been bothering me since Friday night. What is it? Elena's voice sounded tired. She'd probably been up all night thinking about their conversation, too. Why did you laugh when you first saw me at the charity game? I mean, I understand now that you recognized me, but what was so funny? Elena was quiet for a long moment. Jordan could hear kids playing in the background. She was probably at school already, even though it was Sunday morning. Do you remember what you used to say when we were kids? Elena finally asked. Every time. Someone told you that you were too short or not good enough? Jordan thought back to those summer days when he was 8 years old and full of impossible confidence. I used to say, just wait. Someday I'll be so good that people will pay money just to watch me play basketball. Exactly, Elena said, and Jordan could hear the smile in her voice. You said it at least once every day. When Mrs. Henderson said you'd never make the school team. When the older kids wouldn't let you play with them. When your own father said basketball was just a hobby. Jordan remembered now. He'd been so sure of himself, even when everyone else doubted him. It must have sounded crazy to most people, a short, skinny kid claiming he'd be good enough for people to pay to watch him play. Friday night, Elena continued, I walked into that gym and saw hundreds of people who had paid money just to watch you play basketball. Even in a silly charity game, even though you're not young anymore. People still pay money just to see Michael Jordan touch a basketball. Jordan felt his throat tighten. You were laughing because that impossible little boy was right. Your craziest dream came true exactly the way you said it would. I laughed because I remembered 8-year-old Michael Jordan making that bold promise. And there was the proof that he'd kept it. Jordan closed his eyes. He could picture Elena as a little girl, probably the only person who'd actually believed him when he made those outrageous predictions about his future. But it was more than that, Elena added softly. I laughed because I was so proud of you and so happy that someone who deserved good things had actually gotten them. And maybe I laughed because I was a little sad too. Sad? Sad that I'd missed it all. Sad that I hadn't been there to cheer for you. But mostly sad that I'd never found the courage to chase my own impossible dreams the way you chased yours. Jordan felt his heart break a little. While he was living his childhood dreams, Elena had been watching from far away, proud but also mourning her own lost possibilities. Elena, Jordan said firmly, you did chase your dreams, just different ones than we planned when we were kids. How do you figure that? What did you always say you wanted to be when you grew up? Before we talked about basketball, what was your first dream? Elena was quiet, thinking. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to help kids believe in themselves. And what do you do every single day? Oh. Elena's voice got soft. I teach kids. I help them believe in themselves. So your impossible dream came true too, Jordan said. It just took a longer, harder path than mine did. I never thought of it that way. Jordan looked at the photograph again. You know what I think? I think that little girl in pigtails knew exactly what she was going to become. She just didn't know it would take 30 years and include some detours along the way. Elena laughed, and it sounded exactly like her 8-year-old laugh from his memories. Maybe you're right. Maybe we both ended up exactly where we were supposed to be. And maybe, Jordan said, we're not done yet. After they hung up, Jordan spent the next 3 hours making phone calls. He called his assistant in Chicago, his business manager, his publicist, and several old teammates. Some people thought he was crazy. Others asked if he was sure about what he was planning. But by noon, Jordan had set something in motion that was going to change Elena's life forever. His phone rang just as he was finishing his last call. Mr. Jordan? It was a voice he didn't recognize. This is Principal Martinez from Lincoln High School. I hope you don't mind me calling, but Coach Rivera gave me your number. Is everything okay? Jordan asked. Oh yes, everything's fine. I was just wondering. Coach Rivera seems different today. Happy, but also nervous. She keeps looking at her phone like she's expecting important news. She said, You two are old friends? Jordan smiled. Elena was probably worried about what he was planning. We are old friends, Jordan confirmed. Very old friends. Well, I just wanted you to know that Elena Rivera is one of the best people I've ever worked with. She cares about these kids more than anyone I've ever seen. If there's anything you're planning to help her, she deserves it. Thank you for saying that, Jordan said. And Principal Martinez, you might want to keep Wednesday evening free. I have a feeling it's going to be an interesting night. Jordan's next call was to Danny Rodriguez, who had organized the charity game. Danny, I need a favor, a big one. Anything, Mike. What do you need? I need you to get Coach Rivera and her team back to the Riverside Community Center on Wednesday night. Tell her it's for a small celebration of their victory. Don't tell her anything else." "What are you planning?" Danny asked suspiciously. "Something that should have happened 30 years ago," Jordan said. That afternoon, Jordan drove to the airport to pick up some very special guests who were flying in to help with his surprise. As he waited in the terminal, he thought about Elena's laugh at the charity game. She'd been laughing at the beautiful impossibility of dreams coming true. A little boy's crazy. Promise had become reality, and she'd been there to witness it. Now, it was Jordan's turn to witness Elena's dreams coming true. Not the dreams she'd given up, but the new ones she'd been building all along without even realizing it. His phone buzzed with a text message from Elena. "Michael, what are you up to? People keep calling the school asking strange questions about me and my team. I'm starting to worry." Jordan texted back, "Remember when we were 8 and I told you I was going to surprise you with something amazing? And you said you trusted me?" Elena's response came quickly. "I remember. I also remember that your amazing surprise was teaching me to dunk on a 6-foot hoop by standing on a chair. I fell and scraped my knee." "This surprise will be better," Jordan typed. "I promise." "It better be. I'm not 8 years old anymore. I don't bounce back as easily." Jordan grinned as he put his phone away. In 3 days, Elena was going to discover that some dreams are worth waiting 30 years for. And this time, Jordan was going to be there to catch her if she fell. Wednesday couldn't come fast enough. Jordan spent Monday and Tuesday working like a man on a mission. He made phone calls, sent emails, and pulled in favors from people he hadn't talked to in years. Every detail had to be perfect. Elena deserved nothing less. On Tuesday afternoon, Jordan sat in his hotel room with a notebook full of plans spread across his bed. His assistant Marcus had flown in from Chicago with contracts and documents. His publicist was coordinating with local news stations. 3 of his former Chicago Bulls teammates were arriving that evening. But the most important call Jordan made was to Elena's children. "Is this Maria Rivera?" Jordan asked when a young woman answered the phone. "Yes, this is Maria. Who's calling?" "This is Michael Jordan. I'm an old friend of your mother's." There was a long pause. "The Michael Jordan? Are you serious right now?" Jordan laughed. "I'm serious, and I need your help with something very special for your mom." It took 20 minutes to explain everything to Maria, and another 10 minutes to convince her he wasn't playing a joke. But once she understood that her mother's childhood best friend was Michael Jordan, Maria was completely on board. "Mom never told us she knew you personally," Maria said, her voice full of amazement. "She just said you reminded her of an old friend who believed in dreams." "Your mother believed in my dreams when I was 8 years old," Jordan explained. "Now I want to help her dreams come true." Jordan's next call was to Carlos, Elena's son. The 19-year-old was even more shocked than his sister. "Dude, this is insane," Carlos said. "Mom's going to flip out." "Good flip out or bad flip out?" Jordan asked. "Definitely good. Mom's been different since she saw you at that charity game. Happier. Like, she remembered something important about herself." Jordan smiled. "Can you both be at the Riverside Community Center tomorrow night at 6 p.m.? And can you keep it a secret? From your mom?" "We'll be there," Maria promised. "But Mr. Jordan, whatever you're planning, please be careful with Mom's heart. She's been through a lot." "I know," Jordan said softly. "That's exactly why I'm doing this." Tuesday evening, Jordan met with Danny Rodriguez and the staff at the community center. They spent 3 hours transforming the gym into something magical. New banners were hung from the ceiling. Tables were set up for a catered dinner. Sound equipment was tested and retested. "Mike, this is incredible," Danny said as they looked around the decorated gym. "But are you sure Elena won't suspect anything?" "She's suspicious," Jordan admitted. "She's been texting me all day asking what I'm up to." but she agreed to bring her team for what she thinks is a small celebration dinner. The biggest surprise was waiting in the parking lot. A truck had delivered dozens of boxes containing brand new basketball equipment, uniforms, and shoes for Elena's team. But that was just the beginning. On Wednesday morning, Jordan's former teammates arrived at the airport. Magic Johnson flew in from Los Angeles. Scottie Pippen came from Chicago. Dennis Rodman, surprisingly, was the first one there. "Mike, you better have a good reason for getting me up before noon," Dennis said with his trademark grin. "Trust me," Jordan said. "This is important." By Wednesday afternoon, word had leaked to the local media that something big was happening at the community center. But Jordan had sworn everyone to secrecy about the details. Even the news crews didn't know exactly what they were covering. At 5:30 p.m., Jordan stood in the community center parking lot, watching for Elena's car. His stomach felt like it was full of butterflies. He hadn't been this nervous since his first NBA game. "You okay, Mike?" Magic asked, walking up beside him. "You look like you're about to throw up." "I just want this to be perfect for her," Jordan said. "Elena deserves something amazing after everything she's been through." "From what you told us about her, she's going to love this," Scottie said. "But man, I still can't believe you found your childhood best friend after 30 years. "I didn't find her," Jordan corrected. "She found me. She's been watching out for me this whole time, even when I didn't know it." At 5:45, Elena's old blue Honda pulled into the parking lot. Jordan watched as she got out of her car with her team of 12 players. The kids were excited but confused. They'd expected a small celebration, not news vans and crowds of people. Elena looked around the busy parking lot with growing suspicion. When she saw Jordan walking toward her, her eyes narrowed. "Michael Jordan," she called out. "What have you done?" "Something I should have done 30 years ago," Jordan replied with a grin. Elena's players were starting to recognize some of the other people in the parking lot. "Coach," one of them whispered, "is that Magic Johnson?" "And Dennis Rodman," another kid added in amazement. Elena looked at Jordan with a mixture of excitement and panic. "Michael, what is this? There are TV cameras here." "Trust me," Jordan said, taking her hand. "Remember? Just like when we were 8 years old." Elena took a deep breath. "Okay, I trust you. But if you embarrass me in front of my players, I'm going to make you run laps until you pass out." Jordan laughed. "Deal. But Elena, you might want to call your kids and tell them to get here fast. They're not going to want to miss this." "My kids? What do my kids have to do with—" Elena stopped talking as Maria and Carlos appeared in the crowd, walking toward them with huge smiles on their faces. "Mom!" Maria called out, running to hug her. "We're so proud of you." "Proud of me for what?" Elena asked, looking completely confused. Carlos grinned and hugged his mother too. "For being awesome, Mom. For never giving up on your dreams." Elena looked at Jordan with tears in her eyes. "What dreams? I'm just a high school basketball coach." "No," Jordan said softly. "You're so much more than that. And tonight, everyone's going to see what I've known since we were 8 years old. You're special, Elena Rivera, and it's time the whole world knew it." Jordan gestured toward the community center entrance, where a red carpet had been laid out. "Shall we go inside? Your surprise is waiting." Elena wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. Whatever Jordan had planned, she was ready to face it. After all, she'd faced everything else life had thrown at her. "Lead the way, Michael," she said. "But remember what I said about those laps." As they walked toward the entrance, surrounded by Elena's excited players and proud children, Jordan felt like that 8-year-old boy again. The boy who'd promised his best friend that dreams could come true if you believed in them hard enough. Tonight, he was going to prove that some promises are worth keeping, even if it takes 30 years. Elena walked through the doors of the community center and stopped so suddenly that her players almost crashed into her. Her mouth fell open, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. The entire gym had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Banners hung from the ceiling that read, "Lincoln High School Basketball," and "Coach Elena Rivera, Champion of Dreams." Tables covered with white tablecloths surrounded the basketball court. Hundreds of people were already seated, all of them looking at Elena with warm smiles. But that wasn't the most shocking part. Standing at center court were 10 NBA legends, all wearing special jerseys that said, "Elena's All-Stars" on the front. Magic Johnson waved at her. Scottie Pippen grinned and gave her a thumbs up. Even Dennis Rodman, with his colorful hair, looked happy to be there. Elena's players were speechless. They'd gone from thinking they were going to a small pizza party to standing in front of basketball royalty. "Coach," whispered Tommy, one of her point guards, "what's happening?" Elena couldn't answer because she didn't know herself. She looked around the gym with tears streaming down her face. In the crowd, she saw Principal Martinez beaming with pride. She saw parents from her Saturday morning camps. She saw some of her former players who had graduated and driven hours to be there. But, most shocking of all, she saw a huge banner being unfurled at the far end of the gym. It showed a blown-up version of the old photograph, 8-year-old Elena and Michael standing together with their trophies, grinning at the camera. Above the photo, in bold letters, it read, "Best friends forever, then and now." Jordan walked to the center of the court and picked up a microphone. His voice echoed through the packed gymnasium. "Ladies and gentlemen, parents and players, friends and family, thank you all for being here. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about someone very special to me." Elena covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed by emotion. Her children stood on either side of her, each holding one of her arms. 30 years ago, Jordan continued, a little girl named Elena Martinez taught me the most important lessons of my life. She taught me that basketball wasn't just about winning, it was about believing in yourself and never giving up on your dreams. The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word. Elena was my first coach, my first teammate, and my first real friend. When other kids said I was too short to play basketball, Elena told me that height comes from the heart, not just the body. When I missed shots, she helped me practice until I got them right. When I doubted myself, she reminded me that dreams are just goals with wings. Jordan turned to look at Elena, who was still crying, but now watching him with wonder. "We lost touch when we were 9 years old. I spent 30 years looking for her, never knowing she was out here building her own kind of championship. Taking kids who don't believe in themselves and teaching them to soar. Taking broken dreams and showing people how to build new ones." The crowd began to murmur with excitement. This wasn't just a basketball story. It was a story about friendship and second chances. "Elena Rivera," Jordan said, his voice growing stronger. "You have been selected as the new head coach of the Michael Jordan Basketball Academy's flagship location in Chicago." Elena's knees nearly buckled. Her players started cheering. The crowd erupted in applause. "But wait, there's more," Jordan said with a grin that reminded everyone of his competitive days. "The Michael Jordan Foundation is providing full 4-year college scholarships for every player in Lincoln High School's basketball team." Elena's players went wild. Some of them started crying. Others were jumping up and down. Parents in the crowd were hugging each other. "And because every champion needs a proper home court," Jordan continued, "we're also completely renovating Lincoln High School's gymnasium with new floors, scoreboards, bleachers, and equipment." Principal Martinez stood up and started clapping so hard his hands probably hurt. But Jordan wasn't finished. "Finally," he said, walking over to Elena and taking her hand, "I want to present you with something that's long overdue. An official from the Basketball Hall of Fame walked onto the court carrying a beautiful plaque. "Elena Rivera," the official announced, "you are being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame's Coaching Excellence Program for your outstanding dedication to developing young athletes and building character through basketball." Elena finally found her voice. "I can't accept all this," she said into Jordan's microphone, her words echoing through the gym. "It's too much." "Yes, you can," Jordan said firmly. "Because 30 years ago, you gave me something more valuable than any championship ring. You gave me confidence. You made me believe I could fly. Now it's time for you to fly too." The crowd rose to their feet in a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever. Elena's players surrounded her, all of them crying and laughing at the same time. Her children hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe. But Elena only had eyes for Jordan, her childhood friend who had remembered her after all these years, who had seen past her small life to the dreams she'd forgotten she had. "How did you do all this so fast?" she whispered to him as the applause continued. Jordan winked. "When you have a dream worth fighting for, you find a way. You taught me that." Elena shook her head in amazement. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Jordan replied. "Say yes to the job, yes to Chicago, yes to coaching the best young players in the country. Say yes to the dreams we talked about when we were 8 years old." Elena looked around at the celebration surrounding her. Her players were being interviewed by reporters. Her children were posing for pictures with NBA legends. The community that had supported her for 5 years was cheering like their own dreams had come true. "What about my team here?" Elena asked. "What about Lincoln High School?" "Your assistant coach is ready to take over," Jordan said, "and you'll still be connected to this place forever. But Elena, you've given everything to this community for 5 years. It's time to let the world see what Lincoln High School already knows. You're an extraordinary coach who deserves an extraordinary opportunity." Elena wiped her eyes and looked at the microphone in her hand. Hundreds of people were waiting to hear what she would say. She thought about the 8-year-old girl in pigtails who used to dream about being important someday, who used to practice basketball moves in her backyard and imagine crowds cheering for her. She thought about the struggling single mother who worked 3 jobs and thought her dreaming days were over. She thought about the teacher who found her way back to basketball and discovered that helping others achieve their dreams was even better than achieving your own. "Yes," Elena said into the microphone, her voice strong and clear. "Yes to all of it. Yes to dreams coming true. Yes to second chances. And yes to proving that friendship is the most powerful force in the universe." The crowd exploded in cheers so loud that the old building seemed to shake. Elena was lifted up by her players, carried around the court like she'd just won the NBA championship. But the best moment came when the celebration calmed down and Elena found herself standing next to Jordan at center court, both of them holding that old photograph. "We made it," Elena said quietly, so only he could hear. "We sure did," Jordan replied. "Both of us, just like we always said we would." And for the first time in 30 years, Elena Martinez Rivera felt like that fearless little girl who believed anything was possible if you had a good friend beside you and a basketball in your hands. But Jordan wasn't finished with his surprises. As the celebration continued around them, Jordan signaled to someone near the gym entrance. Elena followed his gaze and gasped when she saw who was walking toward them. He was her father, Roberto Martinez, now 72 years old and walking slowly, with a cane. Behind him came her mother, Carmen, and her younger brother, Luis, who Elena hadn't seen in 2 years. "Papa?" Elena whispered, her hand flying to her heart. Roberto's weathered face broke into the biggest smile Elena had seen from him since she was a child. "Mija, we are so proud of you." Elena ran to her parents like she was 8 years old. Again, throwing her arms around both of them. She'd flown them up from Texas without telling her, just so they could witness their daughter's moment of triumph. "How did you know to bring them?" Elena asked Jordan through her tears. "I called every Martinez in Texas until I found them," Jordan said simply. "This moment needed your whole family here." Elena's mother, Carmen, took her daughter's face in her hands. "Elena, when you were little, you used to tell us that your friend Michael was going to be famous someday. You never stopped believing in him, even after we moved away." "And now," Roberto added, his voice thick with emotion, "he never stopped believing in you." The reunion was interrupted by Elena's current players, who had been watching the celebration with growing excitement. Tommy, her point guard, tugged on her sleeve. "Coach Rivera," he said, "does this mean we're all really going to college for free?" Elena knelt down to Tommy's eye level. "Yes, mijo. Every single one of you, if you keep working hard and believing in yourselves." "What about you, Coach?" asked Maria, the girl who always asked the best questions. "Are you really going to Chicago?" Elena looked at Jordan, then at her children, then at her parents. So many people she loved, all gathered in one place. The decision should have been easy, but her heart was torn. "I don't know," Elena said honestly. "This is my home. You are my family. How can I leave all of you?" Jordan stepped forward. "Elena, can I tell everyone something?" She nodded, still, kneeling among her players. Jordan picked up the microphone again. "There's one more surprise tonight. The Michael Jordan Basketball Academy isn't just offering Elena a job in Chicago. We're also opening a satellite program right here, based at Lincoln High School." The crowd erupted again. Principal Martinez looked like he might faint from excitement. "Elena," Jordan continued, "you can split your time between Chicago and here. Train the elite players in Chicago, but never lose connection to the community that shaped you. The best of both worlds." Elena stood up slowly, understanding washing over her face. "You mean, you get to keep your family here and pursue your biggest dreams. I mean these kids get to watch their coach become a national figure while still being their coach. I mean everyone wins." Elena's father stepped forward, his cane tapping on the gymnasium floor. In a voice that carried across the entire gym, he said, "Elena, when you were 9 years old and we had to move away, you cried for weeks. You said you were leaving your best friend and your dreams behind." The gym grew quiet, everyone listening to the old man's words. "I told you then that sometimes life takes us down different paths, but if something is meant to be, it will find its way back to us." Roberto looked at Jordan, then back at his daughter. "Mija, your dreams found their way back to you. Don't be afraid to catch them." Elena looked around the gym one more time. At her parents, proud and beaming. At her children, excited for her future. At her players, inspired by what was possible. At the community that had supported her through everything. And at Jordan, her childhood friend who had never forgotten the little girl who believed in impossible things. "You know what I think?" Elena said into the microphone, her voice growing, stronger with each word. "I think 8-year-old Elena and 8-year-old Michael made a promise to each other. We promised to be basketball stars forever." She walked over to Jordan and took his hand. "It just took us 30 years to figure out that being a star isn't about being famous. It's about lighting up other people's lives and helping them find their own way to shine." The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word. Michael became a star by showing the world what was possible with hard work and determination. I became a star by showing kids in my community that their dreams matter, no matter where they come from. Elena's voice grew emotional but remained steady. And now, together, we're going to create new stars. Kids who learn that friendship is stronger than competition, that lifting others up makes you fly higher than any dunk ever could. That dreams delayed are not dreams denied. The applause started slowly, then built to a thunderous roar. Elena's players were crying. Her parents were crying. Even some of the tough NBA legends had tears in their eyes. But Jordan was smiling. That same smile he'd had as an 8-year-old when Elena agreed to practice free throws with him for the 100th time that day. As the celebration moved into dinner and speeches, Elena found a quiet moment with Jordan near the old photograph banner. "Michael," she said, "I need to ask you something that's been bothering me. Anything. Why did you do all this? Really? You could have just stayed in touch, maybe sent some equipment to the school. Why change my entire life?" Jordan was quiet for a long moment, looking at the picture of their younger selves. "Because for 30 years, I've been successful but not complete. I won championships, made money, became famous. But I was missing the person who taught me that success without friendship is just noise." He turned to face her. "Elena, you've been the missing piece of my story this whole time. Not because I needed you to make me feel better about myself, but because I needed to prove that the values you taught me, loyalty, faith, lifting others up, actually matter more than any individual achievement." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Again. So this isn't just about helping me. This is about both of us, finding our way back to who we were meant to be." "Together," Jordan said, "the way it should have been all along." Elena looked around the gym at all the people celebrating, her family, her players, her community, her oldest friend. For the first time in 30 years, all the different pieces of her life were in one place, connected and whole. "You know what the best part is," Elena said. "What?" "We get to do this again. Every day, with new kids, new dreams, new chances to prove that believing in each other can change the world." Jordan grinned. "Think we can handle it?" Elena picked up a basketball from the rack nearby and spun it on her finger, just like she used to do when they were kids. "Michael Jordan, I've been ready for this my entire life. I just didn't know it until now." As the evening wound down and people began to leave, Elena stood in the center of the gym where it all began, where she'd first laughed at seeing her childhood friend achieve his impossible dreams, where she'd discovered that her own impossible dreams were just beginning. The circle was complete, but the journey was just starting. 6 months later, Elena stood in the brand new Michael Jordan Basketball Academy in Chicago, watching her advanced players run drills on a court that gleamed like polished glass. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting everything in golden light. These weren't her Lincoln High School kids. These were some of the most talented young basketball players in the country, kids who had been recruited from across America to train out at the most prestigious basketball academy in the world. They were faster, stronger, and more skilled than any players Elena had ever coached. But as she watched them practice, Elena smiled. Talent was just the starting point. What mattered was what you did with it. "Looking good out there," Jordan said, walking up beside her with 2 cups of coffee. Even at the academy that bore his name, he still brought Elena coffee every morning they were both there, just like he used to bring her juice boxes when they were kids. "They're incredible athletes," Elena agreed, taking a sip. "But Tommy Chen is letting his ego get in the way of his teamwork. Sarah Williams has amazing skills but no confidence in herself, and Marcus Thompson is so afraid of failing that he's not taking any risks." Jordan grinned. "Sounds like you've got them figured out already." "They're not so different from my kids back home," Elena said. "Different problems, same hearts. They all just want to know that someone believes in them." Through the windows, Elena could see the Chicago skyline stretching toward Lake Michigan. It was beautiful, but sometimes she missed the simple view from Lincoln High School. Just trees and a parking lot where kids rode their bikes to Saturday morning practice. "How are things going back in Lincoln?" Jordan asked. reading her thoughts like he always did. Elena's face lit up. Amazing. Coach Martinez, he's my old assistant, sent me videos from yesterday's practice. The new gym is incredible, and the kids are working so hard. Tommy, my Tommy from back home, he's gotten 3 inches taller and is shooting 80% from the free throw line now. And the scholarships? All 12 of my original players are thriving in college. Maria sent me her report card last week. Straight A's. Carlos is starting varsity at his community college. Elena's voice grew soft with pride. They're proving that dreams don't have limits when you give kids the right opportunities. Jordan watched Elena talk about her former players, even surrounded by elite athletes and million-dollar facilities. Her heart was still with those kids who needed basketball most. You know, Jordan said, when I first created this academy, I thought it was about finding the next Michael Jordan, the next superstar who could dominate the game. And now? Elena asked. Now I think it's about creating the next Elena Rivera, the next coach who understands that basketball is just a tool for building character and confidence and dreams. They walked onto the court as Elena's morning session began. These elite players had been training their whole lives, many with private coaches and expensive equipment. But they'd never had someone like Elena. Gather around, Elena called, and the players jogged over. Before we work on your jump shots, I want to tell you about a boy named Tommy. The players looked confused. They were expecting advanced drills and professional techniques. Tommy lives in a small town and practices with old basketballs on a court with cracks in the pavement. His shoes have holes in them, and his family can't afford basketball camp. But Tommy never misses practice. He stays after school every day to work on his free throws. And you know what? Tommy shoots better free throws than half of you. Sarah Williams, a highly recruited guard from California, raised her hand. What's your point, Coach Rivera? Elena smiled. My point is that talent without gratitude is just noise. Skills without heart are just tricks. You are here because you're gifted, but that gift comes with responsibility. She walked to center court, and the players followed. Every time you touch a basketball, remember that there are kids like Tommy who would give anything for the opportunities you have. Play like you're playing for them, too. Marcus Thompson, a tall kid who'd been recruited by every major college, spoke up. Coach, how do we do that? By working harder than you think you need to. By lifting up your teammates instead of trying to outshine them. By remembering that being great isn't about being better than everyone else. It's about making everyone around you better too. The practice that followed was different from any the players had experienced before. Elena pushed them technically, but she also challenged them emotionally. She taught them plays, but she also taught them about playing for something bigger than themselves. During a water break, Jordan pulled Elena aside. The parents are talking, he said quietly. They think you're too soft, too focused on feelings instead of fundamentals. Elena wasn't surprised. These parents had invested thousands of dollars in their children's training. They wanted results, not life lessons. What do you think? Elena asked. Jordan watched as Elena's players helped each other practice shots, encouraged teammates who missed, and shared water bottles without being asked. In 6 months, she'd transformed a group of individual stars into an actual team. I think those parents are about to learn something they didn't expect, Jordan said. 3 weeks later, the Michael Jordan Basketball Academy played their first exhibition game against the defending national prep school champions. Elena's team wasn't expected to win. They'd only been training together for 6 months, while their opponents had played together for years. The game was close for 3 quarters. Elena's players showed all the individual skills that had gotten them recruited. But in the 4th quarter, something magical happened. When Sarah Williams got tired, Marcus Thompson stepped up his defense. When Marcus got in foul trouble, Tommy Chen took over the offense. When the team was down by 5 points with 2 minutes left, they didn't panic or try to be heroes individually. They played for each other. Elena's team won 78-74, and it wasn't even close. Not because they had more talent, but because they played like they understood something their opponents didn't. Basketball is a team sport, and the strongest teams are built on trust and mutual support. After the game, Elena found Jordan in the hallway outside the locker room. "You were right," she said. "It wasn't about being soft, it was about being complete." Jordan hugged his oldest friend. "You know what I'm proudest of?" "What?" "You didn't change to fit this place. You changed this place to fit you. These kids aren't just better basketball players now, they're better people." Elena looked through the window at her players, who were celebrating with humility and including everyone in their joy. "That's what you taught me when we were 8 years old, Michael. That winning means something only when you lift others up with you." 6 months later, Elena was back at Lincoln High School for the dedication of the newly renovated gymnasium. The whole town had come out to celebrate. Her old players were there, now college students who still called her Coach Rivera, with the same respect they'd always shown. But the most special moment came when Elena and Jordan stood together at center court, in front of a new banner that had been hung in the rafters. It was a larger version of their childhood photograph, but this time it included a new picture beside it, Elena and Jordan today, surrounded by dozens of young players from both Chicago and Lincoln. The banner read, "Best friends forever, dreams that never end." Principal Martinez handed Elena a microphone for the dedication ceremony. "5 years ago," Elena said to the crowd, "I came to Lincoln High School as a teacher who wanted to help kids believe in themselves. I thought I was here to give back to my community." She looked at Jordan, then at all the faces in the crowd. Her family, her former players, her current Chicago team who had driven down for the ceremony, and the new Lincoln High School players, who were just beginning their journeys. "But what I learned is that when you help others chase their dreams, you discover dreams you never knew you had. When you lift others up, you find out you can fly too." Elena's voice grew stronger. "This gymnasium represents something bigger than basketball. It represents the idea that every child deserves someone who believes in them, that every dream deserves a chance to grow. That friendship is the foundation of all great achievements." She paused and looked directly at the old photograph hanging in the rafters. 30 years ago, 2 8-year-old kids made a promise to each other. "We promised to be basketball stars forever." It took us 3 decades to understand what that really meant. Elena smiled at Jordan. "Being a star isn't about individual glory. It's about creating light that helps others find their way. It's about proving that dreams can survive anything: time, distance, hardship, even our own doubts about ourselves." The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word. Today, we're not just dedicating a new gymnasium. We're dedicating ourselves to a new understanding of what success means. Success is measured not by the trophies we win, but by the dreamers we inspire. Not by how high we can jump, but by how many people we can lift up with us. Elena walked over to Jordan and took his hand, just like they used to do when they were kids making promises they didn't know they could keep. "Michael Jordan taught me that impossible is just another word for something that hasn't happened yet. And I taught him that the best victories are the ones you share with friends." She looked out at the crowd one more time. "So here's our new promise, made in front of all of you as witnesses. We promise to keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep proving that friendship and basketball can change the world, one kid at a time." The applause was thunderous, but Elena barely heard it. She was looking at Jordan, and he was looking back at her with the same expression he'd had when they were 8 years old and believed they could do anything. "Think we can keep that promise?" Jordan asked quietly. Elena picked up a basketball from the rack nearby and spun it on her finger, just like she'd done as a child. Michael Jordan, we've been keeping it our whole lives. We just finally figured out what it meant. As the ceremony ended and people began to leave, Elena and Jordan stayed on the court, shooting baskets in the afternoon light that streamed through the high windows. They were 53 and 42 years old now, with gray in their hair and lines around their eyes. But as they played one-on-one, laughing and trash-talking like they had decades ago, they felt exactly like those two 8-year-old kids who had promised to be basketball stars forever. They had kept their promise in ways they never could have imagined. And the best part was, they were just getting started. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning all over again, with new players, new dreams, and the same unbreakable friendship that had started it all. Elena made a perfect shot from the free throw line, the ball floating through the air like a feather, just like Jordan had taught her all those years ago. "Still got it," she said with a grin. "Still got it," Jordan agreed, "and we always will." And that's how two childhood friends found their way back to each other after 30 years, proving that some promises are worth keeping no matter how long it takes. Where are you listening from today? Drop your city or country in the comments. Below, I love seeing our amazing community from all around the world. If this story of friendship and dreams touched your heart, please hit that like button to spread some kindness. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss stories that remind us what really matters in life. There's another incredible story waiting for you right now. Just click on the video appearing on your screen. Trust me, you won't want to miss. Urchurl. Until next time, remember, your dreams are never too late, and your friendships are never forgotten.